Hello, welcome. This will be the last of the Workbee Z1 assembly videos. It will cover the electronics section, and I will state that I found a wire clothes hanger indispensable when fishing the lines. Thank you and enjoy. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the drag chains here for a quick second between the moving end and the fixed end. And the simplest way is the moving end is the one that actually bends at the hinge. This end right here doesn't because it's fixed. Hence this is fixed end, and this end is the moving end. Okay, so I have it laid out as it's supposed to go into the drag chain, and I have the fixed end right here. And we have the limit switch with the switch side to the fixed end. And then we have the crimped ends of the emergency stop at the moving end. And then motor wires 4 and 5 with black connectors at the fixed end right here. And then for me, as I'm choosing to go with Ethernet, it doesn't matter on orientation. Okay, so I'm at the moving end of the drag chain, and what I'm going to do is just move that over. And I have the 2 motor wires and my Ethernet cable, and all I'm going to do is take a bread cable, and I'm still keeping the wires flat, but just wrapping it around. Then I'm going to take the wire hanger and attach it to the wires, and then just fish the wire through the drag chain. Help out the first bit with the connectors. Okay, and with the wires straight, of course, feed it on through until you can reach the coat hanger. And be mindful for the connectors to snag on anything, but just gently pull through. And there we have the 3 cables on one fell swoop. Just need to get the other 2. So for the limit switch wire and emergency stop wire, I have it tied up at the end. That way the emergency stop wire doesn't split apart or Y out and catch everything along the way. Okay, so same thing, push it on through and mind the connectors so don't catch on things. Except now you got wires to contend with. So I'm going to have to grab the coat hanger with needle nose and kind of help it on through until I can grab it, and then gently pull everything on through. Okay, so I have the machine orientated where the front or router end is facing that way, and the back is that way, and the moving end of the drag chain is right there. And what I'm going to do is pop in a couple of the bolts and try to drag the wires back at the same time, and flip it around, punch these through the holes, add my shims, and then hand tighten the nuts. And I will state whoever put this bolt so close to the motor mount is definitely a masochist. And tighten everything down. Okay, so I have drag chain X here, and I have the fixed end right here, moving ends on the other side, and motor wire number 6 with a black connector tied up to the clothes hanger. And I'm just going to fish it through just like before. Okay, so I'm at the back of the machine with the X drag chain, and just going to, like before, drop in the bolts and push them into the mount. Then add on your shims and then your nuts. Okay, so at the Y-axis here with the stepper motor, and got the fixed end right here, going to put in the bolt at the end that's closer to the machine, and going to put in or slightly thread on the drop-in nut. And the instructions say that they want 90 millimeters from here to here. At the start, you can move it later on, so 90 millimeters is roughly my hand's width as I'm looking for something to measure, and just tighten it on down. Okay, so it's time to put the 0 limit switch onto the limit switch plate. And when tightening this up, you might have to go in and out so you don't shatter the limit switch. And drop on the bolts, flip it on over, and then slightly thread on the drop-in T-nuts. And then add the plate to the back left side. And then the wire sits in between the slot right here. And then on the strip, you cut 50 millimeters off before you install. Okay, so we have the limit switch here that comes out of the wide drag chain, and it's just set in there so it sits on top, and the drop-in T-nut go on there. And please note that it does have a guide here, so that way it sets at a nice 90-degree angle. So just drop in the drop-in T-nut, tighten up the bolt while keeping some pressure to the outside and upwards. Okay, and then take these small zip ties and wrap them around the aluminum spacers and the wire, and then take out the slack. And by doing so, they're nice, taut, and tucked out of the way. And then any slack that's remaining, just pull it on back here and put it through the mounting plate at the center, and then clip it into the stepper motor. And then I am going to take the Z limit access and feed it down through the first one here, and then slowly feed it through the drag chain. And then what you can do is every so often it's going to pop out, so then just take out the slack and thread it back through the hole that it came out of, and keep on feeding along until it pops out again. Okay, and the same goes for the touch probe wire if you have it. Then raise the router mount all the way to the top after you have the wires through the drag chain, and then make sure you have a little bit of slack right there. And then what we're going to do is take the zip tie, thread it on through, and then secure the wires to the chain mount. Okay, then we're going to take wire 5, the longer one here, and plug it into the stepper motor, and then put it into the slot right here. And then take the other motor wire and plug it into the stepper motor, and then work out the slack. And last step for this phase is to plug in motor wire 3 and do nothing. Okay, so time for the control box to be done, and what we're going to do is take the bolts and drop them into the holes, and then flip it over and slightly thread on the drop-in T-nuts. Then attach it to the back of extrusion B and tighten it into place. So it's time to start doing the control board, and one thing I would suggest is touching a piece of metal so that way any static discharge won't take place on this. As well, from this point forward, I will just be showing what I've done instead of working through the process itself. Okay, so this is a point where the cable sleeve is shoved through there, and as far as the extract chain, I just put the wires through. I didn't even bother putting them through the cable sleeve, simply because I just couldn't get it done without everything unraveling. So I want to come back around later and order up some new cable sleeve for that. It's not what the directions say, but that's the best I can come up with. So in order to put the emergency stop output onto the control unit, what I've done is loosened up, or basically taken off the nuts on the top left, bottom left, and bottom right, and loosened up the top right as best as I could, where it's almost non-existent. But I can at least pull it out without causing any pressure on the control plate or control unit, and that way I can slip the wires up. Okay, so I'm to the point of configuring my computer for the Ethernet as the wiring debacle is over, and I noticed that there is no Ethernet port on here to manipulate. So what I end up finding is that the Ethernet adapter, once you plug it in, you will see that the Ethernet port will now pop up, and then you can manipulate it from there. Okay everyone, this completes the rest of the video. I am going to move this to a different place to both save my marriage and to gain some floor space. But the rest of the instructions are pretty well self-explanatory, and if you made it this far, you don't need my help any further. But just to give you a slight taste of what's to come, once you press all your home buttons, you will obviously get a movements, and it should move into the back left corner.